Welcome back. Joining us this morning is Lauren Trantham, founder and executive director of Ride My Road. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, Natalie.
Now, for those that aren't familiar with your project, how would you describe what Ride My Road is?
We're a local anti-human trafficking nonprofit. We've got founded in 2016, and we've been working to raise funds for survivor-led initiatives, take photographs of survivors for professional development, and most recently host a conference series to educate the community on what human trafficking looks like in our area.
Yeah, and speaking of, coming up in May, you have that second annual Human Trafficking Disruptors Summit. How would you describe what that is?
There's two objectives to the summit. The first one is, like I mentioned, to educate the community on what trafficking looks like. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like what Hollywood would portray. It's not usually kidnapped kids. It happens in different various ways. And so we want to make sure that the community knows what signs to look for. That's our first objective. So we invite all community members to attend the summit.
Yeah, it seems like there are maybe a lot of misconceptions in the popular imagination about what human trafficking can look like. So it sounds like that's what the purpose of this is to kind of educate people about what it actually looks like.
Exactly. And the second objective is to celebrate our local agencies. So we have a lot of agencies that are doing amazing, incredible work in the Valley. They're not necessarily anti-human trafficking agencies, but what we want people to understand is that when we support our vulnerable populations, that is trafficking prevention.
Yeah.
So these local agencies are our heroes. They're the ones that are keeping our vulnerable population safe. And so the second objective of the summit is to celebrate them.
And there's still an opportunity for local businesses to get involved. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes, when we invite these agencies to the summit, they'll be able to table, but we also want them to bring their staff. And so we're asking local businesses to get involved right now to adopt a team to power the summit, and we can make sure that while they may not be trafficking organizations, they know what trafficking looks like and they know how to provide those services to victims. And so we're asking local businesses to jump on board in sort of a basketball-themed bracket style, sponsor a team, adopt a team, and make sure that these agencies can come free of charge.
Human trafficking, it's a problem that a lot of people are aware of course, but a lot of people feel like maybe they can't really do anything to solve it. What would you say is one thing people can do every day to help?
I think really education is the key, and that's why we host the summit. But while we're here today, I'll let you know a couple of things people should understand about human trafficking. I already mentioned that it's not necessarily kidnappings. That's probably less than 2 to 3% of trafficking victims in the United States are kidnapped. Instead, they're sort of coerced or groomed into what we call the commercial sex industry. And so it's important to understand what grooming tactics traffickers are using. And the other thing to consider when we think about human trafficking in this country is the demand side. We talk a lot about victims, we talk a lot about traffickers, but we don't often hear much about the buyers. And so understanding who are the people in the community that are actually purchasing people, and how can we combat that?
It sounds like education is one of the best ways to prevent scenarios like this happening.
Absolutely. We used to do a ton of awareness events at Ride My Road, and I started to realize that while people come and they want to support the cause, they weren't really understanding how it happens, which is why we shifted from awareness to actual education, because as a community, we have the power to come together to make a real impact. And unfortunately, human trafficking does happen in the Rogue Valley. We've had labor trafficking incidences, massage parlor busts, sex trafficking, of course. And so it's easy to think it doesn't happen here, but in fact it does.
Lauren, is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap up today?
Well, we want to thank our sponsors. We already have some sponsors on board, and while we're here looking for more, we're looking for more partnerships with the business community. We want to thank our sponsors, A&P Conference, Harry and David, United Way, Ashland Insurance, and Rogue Valley Financial.
Well, Lauren, thank you so much for being on Sunrise this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, coming this May, Ride My Road presents the second annual Southern Oregon Human Trafficking Disruptor Summit. They'll be focusing on topics such as sex trafficking, familial trafficking, online exploitation, demand reduction, and more. You can save $50 by purchasing your early bird ticket for the two-day event right now for $85. That includes lunch and parking both days. For more information about the summit and to reserve your spot, visit anpconference.com. And for more information about Ride My Road, visit ridemyroad.org. Once again, Lauren, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back.